Hello again. It's one of my great joys in this Vibrant Life YouTube channel to be able to bring to you people who carry a really similar heart and flavor as what I've been releasing. I just think it's wonderful for you to hear from others that have their own experiences. And today, one of those people is Karena Lout, a really good friend of mine, also a pastor. And she's got such a gentle, humble heart that you're really going to connect with. And Karena is going to share with us about what love looks like, and particularly the ways in which Jesus comes alongside of us in our stories so that we can learn how to come alongside of others with empathy and compassion.
Hello! One of my greatest passions in life is to see God bring solutions and hope to injustices and to hardships people are facing. Jesus was quick to engage the world around him. He wasn't afraid to get in the dirt and get messy and to love the outcasts, the marginalized, and those that were most vulnerable. He loved people more than he cared about protecting his reputation. And that's something I so love about him. So we can only give to others what we have received ourselves, right? So Jesus so wants you to receive his love, his kindness, and his compassion. I remember when I first began to really learn to receive the unconditional love of Jesus. And it really felt foreign to me. It was a process to learn how to accept that and to receive that. 2 Corinthians 1, verse 3 through 4 says, "All praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. God is our merciful Father and the source of all comfort. He comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort God has given us." And, once you experience that for yourself, it's only natural that we want others to experience that same love and grace and comfort and compassion, right? So I want to start with one of the most powerful things that you can do to impact the world around you is to simply listen to people's hearts and listen to their story. And it might just sound so easy and so simple, but it really is powerful. It's a powerful thing. For several years, I spoke at Rotary clubs and moms groups and different events in high schools, and I would talk about human trafficking and would bring awareness to a safe house in the Bay Area. And it was always really great times seeing people just understand what's happening right here in the Bay Area, the injustices that are going on. But I would say the most powerful part of that was afterwards, especially high schoolers coming up to me and sharing their own stories, some very painful stories. Paul Young, I know he calls that a sacred space when someone chooses to share their heart and their story with you. It's a really special thing. Jesus sees that. He feels the same way when we open our hearts up to him and share the deepest parts of our hearts that we might be ashamed of or that we might have difficulty looking at. It's such a special thing to Jesus. It's a sacred thing. So there was one time at a high school in Oakland where I felt God tell me to gather in a big circle with the students. And so instead of talking at them, I would talk with them. And I tell you, it was an incredible time where we went around the room and I watched as these different high schoolers shared some really deep things going on in their hearts and in their lives, things that they had never really said out loud or shared with others before. And I got to see God just come in and got to love them and to acknowledge their pain and just sit and listen. And it was a very powerful time. Listening to understand how other people's pain has affected them, listening to understand why people have made certain life choices instead of pointing the finger and judging is an amazing thing. That's what Jesus does. He so wants to understand what's going on in our hearts, to understand why people see the world the way they do. That's the incredible thing about each person is we're all unique and different, and we all think and see the world differently. Some of that is because of our life experiences. So it's a powerful tool to really understand where people are coming from. And that's where you're going to see God really break in and move. Listening without an agenda to change people. I think people can see that a mile away when someone is coming at them with an agenda. But what if we all just listen to really understand people without any other agenda? David Batstone has this quote, and he is the director of a really huge anti-trafficking organization. And he says, pulling drowning people out of the river is compassion. Justice is walking upstream to solve the reasons they are falling in. And it's so true. I really love that. If we only focus on the problem and not what caused it, we'll miss the opportunity to see lasting change. Jesus is always interested in the condition of our hearts. He cares so much about what's going on in your heart. And yes, it matters what comes after that. Sometimes our behaviors or sin because of what's going on in our heart. Those things, God wants to see an end to those things too. But most importantly, He wants to know what's going on in your heart. Where did you forget who I really am and who you really are? But, sometimes it's uncomfortable. I'll be the first to admit that. It's uncomfortable when people maybe share something that we haven't experienced ourselves. And so there's a tendency to want to dismiss it. But it's so important that we really, even if we haven't experienced certain things ourselves, to acknowledge the pain that people are experiencing. And we've seen that a lot in our world in this last year, especially in the Black community, where they have just been crying out for people to suddenly to acknowledge the pain that they have experienced. It's a powerful thing when we can stop and acknowledge it, even if we haven't experienced the same pain others have felt. Hebrews 4:15 says, He understands humanity, for as a man our magnificent king priest was tempted in every way, just as we are, and conquered sin. So now we come freely and boldly to where love is enthroned, to receive mercy's kiss, and to discover the grace we urgently need to strengthen us in our time of weakness. He does. He so sees you. He understands. He is acquainted with your pain. He's acquainted with what you're going through. He sees you. If you take anything away from this video, I pray it's that you would feel so seen and known by Jesus. So much of the world, especially in this last year maybe, have asked that question, God, why would you allow so much pain and suffering in the world? Where were you when I went through this? And I've sat with many people who have asked those questions, and I've asked, some of that myself in the past. But one thing that's important to remember is that God's nature doesn't change, and that we do not have to come up with all the answers. In fact, most of the time we don't have the answers, only Jesus does. But a lot of times, we feel the need to want to give some religious answer to make somehow we feel like that might help the situation. But it's never our job to fix or to have all the answers. Our part is simply to love and to, like I said, to really just listen and to be present with people. So I want to talk a little bit about empathy. And empathy is not the same as sympathy. So sympathy often locks people into their problem, into their pain, but empathy draws people out and leads them to Jesus. So empathy is something that we didn't maybe all grow up experiencing, so it might be just different for us, or it might be hard to receive or hard to give. But I encourage you after this to think about a time when you were experiencing some pain or facing a challenge, and Jesus simply sat with you, was present with you, listened to your heart's cry, and acknowledged your pain. And I'm sure that was a healing time for you. Maybe he didn't have, you didn't hear all the things you wanted to hear, but he simply loved you in the middle of your pain, in the middle of what feels like a big mess. Jesus is willing to be with you. And that's what he wants us to give and to extend to others. It's really that simple. The other thing is empathy is feeling with. It's not feeling for. And I know a lot of times, we view empathy or maybe compassion as suddenly carrying someone's burdens and carrying that heavy weight. And that's not what that is at all. It is being with, just like Jesus sits with us and is willing to be with us, and then pointing people to him. And I want to give some ways that you can respond to someone, maybe a coworker, a family member. It's, maybe not necessarily someone in the church. You can give the love of Jesus and the empathy to all. So some things that you can say that can be healing are, I'm sorry you're going through this. That must be really hard for you. That sounds really challenging. I can see how that would be difficult. And I hear how painful that is for you. It's so simple. Those things kind of, I would say, push us towards healing, push us towards Jesus. The first part is acknowledging that someone is really hurting without dismissing it or coming up with all the right answers. So I want to read Psalm 139, verse 3 through 4. And it says, "You are so intimately aware of me, Lord. You read my heart like an open book. You know every step I will take before my journey even begins." He knows you. He sees you. And I want to pray right now for those of you maybe who have felt especially hard on yourself lately, and you're having a difficult time receiving the comfort and compassion of Jesus. I pray right now that that you would feel his presence coming close, and that he would just begin to lift all the heavy weights, and that you would truly just be able to rest in his arms and allow him to love on you in a deeper way. So that's all for now. It's just, I wanted to share those simple things about loving the world around you, and I'll be back soon to share more of that soon. Bye.